Welcome to Biz Chats, everyone, a digital program where I interview expert guests on a wide variety of business topics, and I am your host, Nunzio Presta, founder and CEO of BizOn. Today, I'm very excited to talk with Jaime Masters of Eventual Millionaire. It's a global business consulting and mentoring company specializing in creating automated systems and doubling clients' revenues. She is also the author of Eventual Millionaire and a top business coach who is known for getting rock solid results. Over the past 10 years, she has taught 6- and 7-figure ambitious CEOs, entrepreneurs, and small business owners how to optimize every area of their business, like pumping profits into their bottom line, implementing sales funnels, to target the perfect customer, and marketing strategies that lead to massive conversions. All while remembering to love life and love the journey. Jaime genuinely cares about helping others and loves watching her clients' businesses grow. Jaime is also the producer and host of her own online show and has conducted over 400 interviews with millionaires and billionaires, including myself, which I had a blast doing. She's also been featured in Yahoo Online, Inc.com, Success Magazine, Entrepreneur, Women's Health Magazine, and Business Insider. So it's safe to say that today's chat is going to be very engaging, is going to be very dynamic, and we're going to be talking about systemization, team, and business growth. With that said, let's invite Jaime into this conversation, and let's get things started. 1 second here, guys. There she is. Boom. Hey, there we are. Absolutely, you sound great. Can you hear me?
Long intro there. You read the whole entire thing, huh?
Hey, listen, it's an inspiring intro.
Thanks. It's been 10 years.
Yeah,
so.
you've done some great work, and I think one of those milestones for you is interviewing me.
It's in my calendar. It has gold stars and highlights on it. It was the best.
Awesome. Well, I respect your time, Jaime, and I know I want to stay within the hour because I understand you're busy, and I think today's topic is going to be very dynamic and engaging because you do have a wealth of knowledge. Like you said, you've been doing this for 10 years, so I'm very excited to talk about this topic, systemization, team and business growth, and I'm going to fire off 10 questions, and we'll just go from there. So the first question is, what are the common struggles of business owners when it comes to systems?
They hate them? No. So I've been and you're going to have to cut me off because I will talk forever, okay? So make sure you keep me.
That's my job.
Okay? so I've been a business coach for over 10 years. And some of the funny things are, I give people advice. I tell them what to do often, right? 6- and 7-figure business owners. And when I would do that, I would also, of course, have systems on the list. The systems always went to like the bottom of the list because either we care about cash flow too much, or sales and marketing is sexier, or it's not in our wheelhouse because a lot of owners aren't detail-oriented type people mostly. The entrepreneur type, ADD brain. Out of all these millionaire interviews, I found that it is a very huge commonality between them. And so I'd give them the system side, but it would... it goes to the bottom. It is important, but it is not urgent, so therefore it doesn't really get done. But then they get in this cycle. So the cycle is like run, cash flow, right? And then they're finally delivering whatever that service is, and they don't have a chance to ever get themselves out of the weeds. And so they wonder why they're exhausted and can't sleep at night and all sorts of stuff. And it is because we're not putting the attention where it really should be. But it's because we're so in this mindset that we have to solve those urgent problems right now, and we don't have time, quote unquote, to work on the stuff that we know is important, but we just don't do. Does that make sense?
Got it. So in a way, coming up with a concrete or automated system or way of being as a business owner adds to creating this sustainable approach or operation.
And especially on the employee team side, right? If they don't have the effective team, let's call it, that knows systems better than they do, then it does make it tough too. Because then they feel like they can't trust that system or something like that, and it feels like it's a waste of time or effort. But really getting your hooks in this and getting this piece figured out will allow you to go take a vacation once in a while and not have to bring your phone for all these emergencies.
Yeah, got it, got it, got it. All right, next question here. What does automation look like now and in the future?
Okay, so I want to be a futurist when I grow up. I went to a conference this weekend called Voice and Exits about the futurism. My friend runs futurism.com.
Yep.
And so I'm a super geek when it comes to this, but I'm not going to, don't worry, I won't bore you with the boring, crazy stuff that's like 20, 30, 40, 50 years in the future. Right now, I feel like, and I have a degree in computers. I don't know if you know that I have a degree. All about, yeah, I was an engineer for a long time. Super sexy stuff. And so, totally not. One of the reasons why I got out of it is because I sat in front of a computer all day long, and it's hilarious because I sit in front of a computer all day long. Or a screen, but this is so much better. But what's crazy is I worked at an internet company when I was 16, and so you can see the difference of technology between but way back when and when CD-ROMs took whatever, I think it was like 24 hours to write a CD-ROM. I'm showing my age here, right? You don't remember?
Wow.
Okay, well,
no.
How old are you? Am I older than you are? Oh my goodness. Okay, so the amount of technology and sort of where it was then to where it is now is mind-blowing. We're not even using CD-ROMs anymore, right? So when you start looking at where we are today on automation, especially when it comes to all the different software platforms that a lot of people have, because there's a bazillion, and there's a new SaaS, software as a service type company coming out every single day, many of them. How do we integrate all this stuff so that it's not chaos? Because technology scares people too, right? And so there's a software called Zapier or Zapier. Have you ever heard of that one? No. It kind of, and it's sort of like the in-between. It sort of cobbles everything together on the automation side. So let's say you have a specific CRM, you have a specific project management tool, you have a specific email marketing, and you can really align them together so they can all talk to each other. It's like an API, but it's like widgets that you can sort of drag and drop. It's still a little cobbled together. So when we look at automation now, so let's say in your business, let's say you're a consultancy practice or something like that that has a service base or an agency. When you have a service-based type business and you're onboarding new clients, half that onboarding sequence you can actually have go automatically, but we don't. We're like, we send the contract.
Yeah.
We do this. We need the executive assistant to do all those things, to create the folder with the client information or whatever it is, right? And a lot of that stuff right now can be automated, right? Signing contracts back and forth, all in automation. It's still cobbled together. And so most people just avoid it like the plague because we don't even have the system set up to begin with, let alone the automation fancy stuff, right? So we sort of talk about let's get the main basic system working, and then we'll sort of add automation on top, so in case there are a bunch of tech issues. But in the future, it's going to be changing a million times over, and I don't know if people really pay attention to this stuff. But when we think about customer service, a lot of that stuff, AI is being able to answer better than you paying somebody else and trying to train them. And so when we start, it's a wonderful thing for business owners in many ways because it's cheaper and more effective and all that fun stuff that's coming up. And so it will be actually easier for us to run a better business with less costs, which is a wonderful thing. But we don't even realize what's coming down the pipeline. So we'll create this whole structure and be like, oh, we're not going to need these 1,000 customer service assistants later, right? Because a lot of this stuff will be able to be automated.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Sort of a little snapshot. That goes huge.
Absolutely. No. Yeah, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. I'm excited to see how AI and machine learning and even blockchain to a certain degree, how that's going to have the effect on just automation and making businesses a lot more leaner. That being the pro, and then the con obviously is, a lot of concerns around employment and talent and what that's going to do. So I'm just really excited to see how this all plays out. I believe in humans. I believe in us. We, the best are embrace change and adapt. So I'm excited just to see where all that goes. But let's jump to the next question here. What are two of the habits and tactics that are common with millionaire business owners?
Okay. So one, and I just had Tom Billio on the show that runs Quest Nutrition, and it's one of the most, so I asked the same last question at the end of my show. So after 400 and something interviews, right, makes almost 7 years doing the show, we take all of the last question and we compile it. So the last question is, what's one action listeners can take this week to move them forward towards their goal of $1 million? And a lot of the pieces that keep coming up, especially on the habit side, is morning routine. So,
yeah.
right. And one of the reasons why I started interviewing millionaires is because I wanted to know, and especially in business, I wanted to know what the people that weren't just writing books about it were actually doing. The people in the super unsexy businesses that are like concrete or construction, or you know what I mean. And so, so I was really kind of surprised that this one kept coming up over and over and over again. So morning routine. And there's a great book. I interviewed my good friend that lives here in Austin. His name's Hal Elrod. He's a millionaire and wrote a book called The Miracle Morning. So if anyone needs to know how to do morning routine stuff, yeah,
very nice,
very awesome. The other piece, and this was something that I came from being very, very just tactical driven, like, right, as an engineer. So you give me logic, I will believe you. You give me whatever, I won't, right? And so, what was really interesting was how many people I interviewed that talked about visioning or imagining what it looked like in the future, not just goals, not just writing down metrics of goals, which is also very important, and we've probably heard that before, but how to actually create a vivid vision. Cameron Harold talks about that. He has a book about vivid visions and how to actually create that, and he helped build the company 1-800-Junk. Huge company, right?
Yep.
And you would think who cares about a vivid vision, especially for smaller type companies? If I'm not trying to do 500 million, who really cares? But it came up over and over and over again about how many times people would pay attention to their vision, and those are habits and tactics that you wouldn't think would be the pieces that you talk about. It'd be like, no, you have to tussle and you have to hit your goals and you have to do the things, right? And it just kept coming up over and over and over again, so I have to talk about them.
And I agree with it, because being an ex-athlete, you know, as a goaltender, when I used to train my goalie coaches, one very, very important aspect of my training was visualization. Visually, you know, visioning and having this vision of me, you know, making a save or moving in, you know, in some direction to save a breakaway or a 2-on-1. Like, visualization was a massive part of the training. And it works because if you see it and believe it in here, and then it happens in real life, I know what to do. I've done this before, right?
Tom talked a lot about meditation. He's got some great resources on it too, because he was saying the exact same thing.
Yeah.
We work with a lot of athletes also, and he does crazy stuff and stuff like that too. And so imagine like teaching your employees or your kids or whatever to actually feel that feeling before they actually do it, so it's not crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And you're used to it. I've done this before, right? Yeah, Tony Robbins. I watch Tony Robbins live, and I actually every morning I listen to his advice, and it's been working for me greatly. Every morning I start off with 3 minutes of just deep breathing, 3 minutes of acknowledging, you know, what I'm grateful for, and then 3 minutes of visualizing my goals for today and my long-term goals. And I think if you do that every morning consistently, you're at a great state where you could, you know, start your day off really strong and positive, and then at the end of the day do the same thing. So you go to bed. I think going to bed in a positive state is just as important as waking up and starting your day in a positive state. So no, this is really important stuff. Thanks for bringing this up, Jamie. So next question here: how do you delegate the best? I think that's for a lot of business owners, that's probably, I would say, one of the top questions, right? Like, well, I have to do everything. I have to do everything, you know, or I'm too controlling, right? But I think, you know, delegation is very important.
There's a bazillion topics that you could go down the wormhole in this, because
Agree.
I work with the mindset of some of these amazing humans, and you're like, it doesn't seem that difficult to let go of some of this stuff. But the problem is if you don't, like I was saying before, if you don't trust the system, or if there is no system, and you're making the decisions over and over and over again, because no offense, if you're a business owner and you're listening, you probably made the same decision over and over and over again. Oh, what do we do in this case? Oh, what do we do in this case? And they're so similar, and it drains us, but we feel like we can't give it away because there is no trust. Are they going to do it like me? They don't think the same way. If I do this, I do it better. So we think a lot of times. Or it's just easier for me to just do it right now instead of training them for later. There's a bazillion excuses that we have in our heads,
Yeah.
right? And what's tough is when you're the owner, you're looking at it and nobody's telling you what to do most of the time, right? Because you're the one running the ship.
Yeah.
So they're not like, and sometimes if you have a really good right-hand person, they will just be like, give me more, right? But in general, they don't slap you around and be like, why the heck are you doing this? Just so you know. So,
Yeah.
when we look at delegating, what I actually have them do is get out of their heads completely and go tactical. So if you have a big old list of everything that you've done for the week, usually do a time audit, something like that, use rescue time or toggle. Then you can actually see the huge list and you can categorize it and go, that's dumb, why was I doing that? That one's dumb too, why was I doing that? Does that make sense? Because then you can see it logically, and then they get out of their own head, and it's not in the rush, urgent mode where I just have to solve everything, chicken with your head cut off kind of thing. Instead, they look at it, and usually when I look at it well, I'm actually flying to New York next week. We're doing this exact exercise with a bunch of people from Chase Business. And so when you go through each piece, it's like, that's really dumb. Why are you doing that one? Right? And they're like, I know.
Why?
I know. And no offense, they need to be called out. My people, anyway, need to be called out like that. Because it's not like we don't know, right? It's another thing knowing and actually doing. Very different.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to slap them around. As a business owner, I want to be slapped around too. Sometimes I don't realize I'm doing it either. And I give my whole team permission to slap me around if I'm doing something that I shouldn't be. Because that's the only way we'll get better.
I agree.
Right? Getting slapped in the face now.
Yeah. I like that, looking back and categorizing and doing a time audit, what's important, because at the end of the day, when you look at it and visually, it's, maybe your time and effort is not as valuable as you think in this area. Someone else on the team could do it just as good, if not better, and now you can put more time towards something else, right? So I like that.
Categorize it, but also put how much it would cost to pay someone, right? We've got that. Everybody, business owners,
sure.
A million times. But then the extra column that I add is if it's in your strengths, if it's your wheelhouse, if you will enjoy doing it or if you hate it. Because time will change based on, or frustration level will change based on those things. And so even if it is a huge task that, is $150 an hour if you were to hire someone else to do it, but you hate it, it's the bane of your existence, like doing contracts or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Then actually getting that off your plate will decrease your frustration level and make you a better business owner anyway.
Yeah, I agree. Next question here, Jamie. Do you have the best organization chart or business structure that you could
tell
people about?
Yes.
Do you?
The question, and the reason why I think that's really important is that most people, especially in the mid six figures or beginning seven figures, it's sort of cobbled together, and they think org charts are meant for big corporations, which you call it an organizational chart. It kind of seems like, I call it a team structure just because it's a little bit easier. Like, I have my team, less than 50 typically, depending on how big you are and stuff like that. And so, but the way you structure it really makes a huge difference, because I don't think people realize sometimes that they're sometimes the spoke. I mean, they're sometimes the hub of the wheel, right? And everybody is coming back to them. Even if you have other people underneath you that are managers, they could all be coming back to you. And when that happens, that's where those urgent, crazy running around moments are. Oh, I've interviewed Annie also. She just not done.
Hi, Annie. Yay. Thanks for joining.
And so being able to take a step back, which I know we're told a bazillion times over as a business owner, but like, what do we do when we take a step back? Is to really look at the way that you have it. So we go through and we write out all your employees, even all your contractors, because it really having a subset of this would be huge. And we can. I can have Leilani send you our team structures if you want. We have two different types.
Yeah.
They're just workflow keynote templates, so that way you can move things around, make them a little bit easier. Yeah. There's also a great book called Rocket Fuel that describes sort of a way that you could do it. Have you ever heard of that book?
No, but I've heard of it. I've never actually
the reason why
engaged with
I want
it.
to talk about the team structures is when you're at a lower gross revenue, or your profits aren't great, or whatever, we can't have a whole C-suite team. We can't have a whole organizational chart that we're supposed to. And if you lay it out that way, which you totally can, you as the owner are wearing 17 different hats. Right? You're like, I do that crappy. And we have a whole team test that we're coming out with soon. It was just on the podcast a few weeks ago, where we talk about which hat are you actually good at? That's where those strengths come in, right? I suck at that hat. I should not be wearing that anymore.
Yeah.
But when you look at the structure, what Rocket Fuel really talks about is that a business owner typically is not the best manager or project manager, right? And so up to around 2 million or so, having somebody, and they call it something different than what we call it internally, but they call it a visionary and an integrator. So the integrator is the person that manages everything, but the visionary is on top. And the only person underneath them is the integrator, and then everybody else is underneath the integrator. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like a barrier.
Like Lonnie, who you've been working with, right?
Yeah.
Right hand. She's my operator. That's what we call her, right? Because I do owner operator a little bit differently, but she manages the team. Because I'm an okay manager, but I'm not a great manager. Right? Because I want to be doing my own thing. I want to be on camera. That kind of stuff.
Yeah. You're setting the general tone up top, and then got it. I like that. I like that a lot.
And then you don't have to. Most business owners suck at being in the weeds. Unless that's your personality type, right? Most of them suck at being in the weeds. And so being able to have that buffer where you tell one person, and even just communication lines, you don't have to tell 5 different project managers, or you don't have to tell 5 different silos, right? You've got one person that manages everything, and it cuts everything down.
And I think it comes down to, as well as, self-awareness for the business owners to realize that. Like, I think that's a big piece, right? So, no, that's awesome. Well, we're halfway done. For everyone tapping in live or listening to this on demand, this segment is brought to you by Jaime's business, Eventual Millionaire. So please go check her site out, eventualmillionaire.com. Now we're on the back 9 with the last, I got about 4 more questions here. Next one here, Jaime, is why does it matter to tap into flow for work as a business owner instead of just trying to hustle all the time? And I really want to get your answer towards this because I think everyone is so fascinated with the explosion of hustle lately that,
Sorry.
Anyways, I want to hear. I want to hear what you say about this.
Hey, Jessica, I know her too.
Hello.
I have children, and so that I start with that caveat, right?
Me too.
So hustle works to a point, but I pick up my kids at 3 today, and I don't want to work forever, and I don't want them seeing me like that either. And so when you graduate high school, you're like, what do I want to do with my life? It's not like kill yourself working really hard. Yay, that's the dream, right? And I think we've sort of made it as the dream. And don't get me wrong, especially at the beginning stages of your business, there definitely has to be hustle. And that's but to me, that's a different subset than than especially when I'm working with 6 and 7 figure business owners. It is so much less about just doing more and times 10. So I work with a lot of business owners, and one of the things I say when I chat with them on a sales call is I go, I want your husband or wife to love me more. Because if they love me, then that means I'm doing my job well. Because you're happier, right? Because so everybody wants to double their business, that makes sense. But if I tell you to double the time you're working, your husband or wife will hate me, right? So
exactly.
But that would work, right? And so my goal with anybody is really to make sure that they're doing the work that they actually enjoy doing, because why else would we be here, right? And it's not always possible, depending on cash flow, to do everything perfect, but really understanding what does help you tap into flow and what doesn't is really, really important, right? So that way you can go home happy, right? And see your husband or wife go on vacation and do things like that, because we're humans also, which, no offense, I feel like the whole hustle movement kind of forgets about. Like, we're humans, we might have family, so we are not robots.
100%.
When we talk about flow, and actually at this conference that I was at, I got to see Jaime adore him. He wrote a book called Stealing Fire, which is all about tapping into flow. He runs a project, I guess, called the Flow Genome Project. And they actually go through and figure out how humans tap into flow. So they talk a lot about, in Stealing Fire, about athletes and how they get in the zone. Same with business owners, though. There are tactical ways that you can actually tap into flow more. But to me, one of the biggest ways is if you actually enjoy doing it, if it is a strength of yours. Does that make sense? And so when you're you're doing a contract because you absolutely hate doing contracts, it's really hard to get into flow. Your mind will just be all over the place.
Yeah.
So putting those tactics of hacking into flow It's only so much, right? And so I personally, and you go to, I think it's eventualmillionaire.com/strengths, and there's a whole bunch of strengths, because sometimes we don't know what our strengths are, so there's a whole bunch of tests that you can take, like the Colby assessment or the DISC assessment, so you can understand what you like and what you don't like a little easier, or you can email your friends and ask them, or ask your employees what your strengths are, or when you're going through that time audit, really figure out what you actually like doing and what you don't, right?
Exactly.
So that's where to start for the core.
Yep.
And then we can put those flow triggers on top of that. So one of them, for example, is having intense focus and timed. So if you've ever heard of the Pomodoro technique, have you ever heard of that? Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yes, it's certain time, and then as soon as it's up, you got to get up and time. Yeah, I heard of it. I heard of it.
Timer.
But refresh my memory.
Right?
It's a time. Yeah. Okay. That's
genius,
yeah.
But it works, and it works so well.
Yeah.
The goal is to have an intention before whatever that thing is that you're going to get done in 25 minutes. Right? So you're like, okay, I only have 25 minutes, and this is what I have to get done. So you have that intense focus, right? And then of course getting up after they have you take 5-minute breaks in between, because we sit at our computers for way too long, people. But when I like to do it, I put on Bose noise canceling headphones, trying to take away all distractions, because I do have ADD. And if the internet is on and I don't necessarily need it, I will accidentally go check email again, or I will, right? It's an unconscious.
Yeah.
And so really setting up your environment so that you're not paying attention to those other things, right? And then, or nootropics and stuff like that, so you can definitely amplify pieces of this, but it all starts with the strengths and the core pieces at first, and then we can add on more of those flow triggers. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it does. It does make sense.
Heard of the difference between Einstein time and Newtonian time?
I saw that noted, and I was actually going to bring it up. What is the difference?
And I don't know if that's one of the other questions or this one. Okay, no, that's this one. Okay, good. Perfect. Because this is what I'm talking about next week. So Newtonian time.
Yeah, please.
It says that time is fixed, right? A second is a second is a second, right? Einstein time, which is correct, by the way, because Newton was proved wrong on this, is that time is relative. And a second is not a second, which is a little mind-blowing, right? You're like, but it's supposed to be a second.
Yeah.
And so for an example, it's like when you put your hand on a hot stove, how long does a second feel? Right? Versus, you're like, or a minute, or an hour? You know what I mean? How long would that actually feel?
As soon as it starts to hurt.
Right? But then time it slows down, right? On the opposite side, if you're really enjoying yourself, or you're in flow, or you're in love, or you're kissing someone, or whatever it is, an hour could feel like nothing at all, right? And
Very
so
true.
when we can actually tap into flow, it feels like we're creating time. Does that make sense? So when,
very interesting.
I'm not a huge fan of writing. I was like, I need to figure out how to actually like this, because if I don't, the book is never going to happen, right? And I found ways to go, because to me it was the inner critic problem of writing, right? So I kept like trying to edit at the same time, which is a big problem with people. And when you just go with the flow and the goal isn't how many words, the goal is how can I get into flow? Time, which is a wonderful thing for entrepreneurs, because we really need more time. That makes sense too.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah. Well, I even see like from I guess my two cents on the hustle too. I think you need to hustle, but it's very important to work smart, not work a lot. And be very disciplined. Like for example, my entire day is scheduled and structured on my calendar, and a lot of people make fun of me, but I literally go off each little task per day, hour by hour, and I stay very disciplined and focused on completing those in order to create a bigger goal, right? But what I do notice, I guess, getting back to it, you're talking about time, I also notice, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel if you are if you're too structured, or you are in, how do I put this? You're too structured and your habits are extreme, I feel that time goes by very quick as well. But if you are open-ended and not as structured, time will be a little bit slower. if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that makes sense. Because I noticed that like a lot of the times when people are doing the exact same, and I'm saying, yes, you have to be structured, but you also have to be open and embrace new experiences, right? Because I feel when people are very, very structured, or they have these exact identical habits that they do every single day, I feel like those are the people that say, oh, time flies. You don't have enough time to do stuff. Da, da, da. But when you're open and you change your experience, and whether you're going on vacation or this or that, I don't know. I just feel habit.
All that stuff too. Yes, because I was beforehand. I used to be the time watcher. I have clock earring. I was super into this stuff. I was, and what's insane. And Tom Billier from Quest talked about this too. And he had a name. He came up with a name for it. I just kept telling people about it because it kept working for me. So I meditate every single day. But in that meditation, at the very end of it, I let my mind not wander, but let my mind focus on the day ahead and what I already sort of think is planned. Because I also have a whole self journal thing, and I write everything out beforehand. I have from 10 to 3 on the days that I have the kiddos, right? And so when I look at that piece, I logically go, oh, and then I squeeze in pieces, right? That also kind of sucks because you can't tap into what's coming up right now. And so Tom talked about this too, and it's a thing from, and I can't remember who it was way back when. It's tapping into sort of that dream state of going when I'm in meditation, of doing what comes up now, right? So if I go, oh, I should text that person, or oh, I should do this, or oh, those inspired actions are a lot more fun. Also, because you feel excited about doing them. It's not like I have to make 27 cold calls again. This sucks, right? It's like, ooh, let me try this. Yeah. Ooh, let me try that. And you get that inspiration, and you can feel so much better. And a lot of the times that will actually give you a lot better results than being like, I'm doing my cold calls again. I hate life. Yeah. Right? And still, it's the same thing about being in the flow, because you enjoy a lot of things more. And when you feel that, and I actually had this happen just the other week, I was like, oh, I should talk to so-and-so, because we're selling a new program, and I was like, oh, I haven't talked to them in a really long time. And I ended up chatting with them, and it was perfect synchronicity, like, oh, this happened, and then this, right? And so then it feels really amazing. And I'm in a good mood, and right? Instead of going, I have to do 27 things, and I hate all of it. That's that flow part. And part of our goal as an entrepreneur is actually to enjoy your life. And sometimes we forget that.
Yeah. I know.
Unfortunately.
No, I know.
Trying to hold up the fort.
This and no, I know, and this is such an interesting topic that we could dig deep into this forever, and I love it. Okay, so next question: how do you tap into flow? I know you just showed us your little journal there, but how do you tap into flow?
I usually get away from my office. Or away from the house. So what I like to do, especially depending on if I have a big project or something like that, I like to batch things. Because when I'm in the day-to-dayness of it, I personally can't focus. I actually don't do my laundry, I shipped out. But there's laundry, there's all sorts of stuff, and getting back into that clear mental state is difficult. So I'll take like a retreat, I call it a retreat day, and either rent out an Airbnb or go to a nice hotel with a spa, and just try and work my butt off, but in flow. So to me, that's hustle, but not hustle, right? It's super fun. I think it's fun. And so when you can sort of get away from your environment and do something different, like you talked about, and I always have plans. It's not like I'm like, oh, I'm not going to get anything done, but I don't put the pressure on myself of the result either. So one of the other exercises I have people do, just as an experiment to show this flow stuff, is I have them write one thing at the top, and at the top I ask one question, and you have a minute to write 2 to 3 sentences on what you're struggling with. And then I go, and this is usually what I do in front of people, I go, I'm going to read it out loud to everyone, no pressure, right? and I build and I build and I build, and they're like, oh. So in their head, that inner critic goes, well, there might be leads here, so I can't write that one, because if she reads it out loud, then everybody's going to think that, right? So their head is going to go, ah, right? And that 1 minute, who knows how long that'll feel, right? So then I ask the same question. I go, okay, I want you to write stream of conscious. I don't want you to actually think of anything, just whatever comes up, even if it's not the answer to the question. I'm not going to read it to anyone. You burn it later, doesn't really matter. You can be as vulnerable as you want. Doesn't matter. You have 1 minute. Ask the same question. What are you struggling with in your business? and they're like, huh? And the difference, and that's just so you can see the state, or feel, I should say, the state of flow and what a big difference it makes. So when you try and remove that pressure, because you know what it's like when you have a deadline, you're like, I have to get this done.
Yeah.
Sometimes that helps people, it does not help me. So, but when you're thinking about like you're procrastinating and now you have to tap into flow on purpose, but you have a deadline and it's too much pressure, that doesn't work. Sometimes it works. That might work for you, especially Jamie Bill talked about it for athletes, like, right? Being in the zone and having a ton of pressure on could be a really great flow trigger for you. Does not work at all for me. No pressure at all.
And I kind of see what he's saying, because I used to rise to the occasion when pressure was built.
Right. So and then all the preparation that you've done before, you're like, I can nail this. Instead of letting that inner critic get to you, because if you were in that same moment, letting that inner critic get to you, that's the problem. Because then you'd suck.
Yeah. No. Thanks.
I'm assuming.
Makes sense.
I was never a goalie, so I don't know.
It was so funny because one of my cons was I would play mediocre against okay teams, and then the top teams, they couldn't get a puck past me, right? So I always, it was weird.
Navy SEAL teams, it talks about all of that stuff, especially on teams. Super cool. I think you really like it.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Next question here, Jamie. What are a few of the core systems a six-figure business owner needs first?
So you can have a list of every single system ever, and you look at it and your eyes would cross. We actually have a checklist. You can go to ownerbox.com/checklist. It's on my webinar that I do. It goes through some of the core systems, because that's the thing. You only have so much time, so you want to 80-20 the systems that you do create, so that way you're buying yourself a little bit more time, so you can go ahead and create more systems. So when I work with clients, at the beginning, when I would talk about systems, I would be like, oh, we need to organize your data. Do you have a dashboard? Like unsexy stuff, but like organization. And when I talked to people, all they cared about was onboarding systems, sales process, right? The things that are really, really important and critical. So that way we can help the top line, at least, even if not the bottom line, at first, so they can feel better about those systems. So I personally, a dashboard to me is really, really helpful for people. Even if it's not you that's running it, even if it's not sexy, it can be a Dropbox folder, if anything. But you want to have a place where you know where everything is, like your metrics, or the things that are really, really important. Hey, John Lee Dumas is on the ship. Hey, John. So making sure. I know. I meet with you guys. I get distracted, so I don't know what to tell you. but I think what I would do specifically is make the list of the systems that you have, and with your team, prioritize them. Because who the heck knows which ones are causing the most friction also? If it's your content marketing and that's your main core that you're doing, and you can refine that one and make everyone breathe easier, or outsource it if you suck at it, right? It's really getting
exactly,
and going, okay, what works best in our type systems. And what we found, again, was onboarding, sales. If you have a ton of employees, the employee onboarding and hiring process is huge, because that can cost a lot of money if you suck at hiring employees. So a lot of nuances to some of those pieces. And we don't do them, unfortunately, instead of trying to actually look at the stuff that we don't like to look at.
Makes sense. I know from a onboarding perspective, a bad hire, for example, I think they say is 2.5 times salary, right, for training and time wasted. So these things are very important. So I definitely like that approach. Jamie, last question here. What's one of the most common pieces of advice from over 500 millionaires that you've interviewed?
So the one that I didn't tell you from before, from the last question. This is the one that comes up over and over and over and over again. Okay. I'll let you wait and let the tension build. No, I know. Okay. It's comical now how often this one comes up though too, because like I've also heard it so many times before. Not that everyone's listened to every single show, but take the one thing that you're procrastinating on, that most likely pushes you outside of your comfort zone, that you're not doing, that you know you should be doing. Go do it right now. Like literally go do it right now.
Mm.
It came up over and over, like I can't remember how many times. It is a ridiculous number of times. And the fact that we have to get reminded about it makes sense because it's one of those things where we own what we get to do every single day. And if we stay, and he said, amen, I love it. If we stay in our little comfort zone, it will never grow. And our comfort zone can grow. And I think we don't understand that so much, right? The comfort zone can grow. So if you start speaking and you suck at it, but then you do 150 speeches, it now becomes comfortable. That's the point of the meditation and the
100%.
meditation that we were talking about before. So when you look at that piece, our whole goal is to try and grow your comfort zone. So all that crappy stuff feels now comfortable. That does not mean that there won't still be uncomfortable things, no matter how much money you make.
Yep.
Right? It will continue. Yep. But as humans, we avoid the uncomfortable. So over and over and over, everybody I interviewed was like, okay, right now, is there anybody listening right this second? Make sure you do this, because action does trump inaction, people. So make sure you do that one thing right now. Could be on your Asana task list, or most of the time it's probably not on your task list whatsoever because you're avoiding it like all heck. Something that will really grow your business. Asking it's like an email. I remember when I asked Seth Godin to give me a blurb for my book, and I remember like not being able to type it. Like I was like, I don't want to bug him, and I whatever the things are.
Yeah.
I wrote back in like 5 minutes and said yes, and I was like, right. So it's not always going to take you a lot of time. It does take you some grit, and sometimes we're not necessarily as good at that as we need to be. So I implore you today to just do that one thing that you're avoiding.
And I agree with that because to bring in, I guess today I've been talking a lot about my past hockey experience. Is weird, but anyways, to bring hockey back into it, I remember when I was a young goaltender, just learning the basics and whatnot. Anytime I felt uncomfortable when my goalie coaches would position me properly is when I was doing something. So whenever I felt uncomfortable is when they were actually moving me towards what I had to do. So for example, as a goalie, you need to be centered to the puck or square to the puck, right? And my habit was, this is comfortable. I think I'm squared and centered to the puck, but in reality, I was not. So as soon as they would reposition me to be square and centered to the puck properly, I felt uncomfortable. I'm like, no, I don't feel like I'm centered or squared to the puck, right? So it's kind of the same idea. And then over time, I'm like, no, this is actually, now I'm comfortable. And I made better saves and I made better decisions, right? And it all played out perfectly. So I think embracing that.
Just so you know, like you're building new neural pathways, and that's why it feels uncomfortable. I used to be in field hockey. I was fullback.
Yep.
Center fullback, not goalie. But
there you go.
But it's that same piece. So what we're trying to do is retrain your brain. Just because it felt uncomfortable doesn't mean it was wrong, right?
Exactly.
And unfortunately, that's what we've sort of been trained. Like, if it doesn't come easy or if it doesn't do this, then it's not quote unquote right.
Yeah.
But like you said, it works way better.
Yep.
So let's just get outside of that comfort zone.
It does. Exactly. Well, Jamie, this has been a blast. Every Biz Chats I end with 3 rapid fire questions. So just hit me with something at the top of your head. The first answer that comes to the top of your head. What was the last song you listened to?
You Are Magic by America. Somebody sent it to me. Like literally just a second ago.
Nice. What is the last movie you watched?
Deadpool 2 opening day.
Oh, the new.
Yep.
Oh, nice. Nice. And
sorry, go ahead.
have you seen some of their marketing initiatives? Pretty creative, right? I know. And the last one here is what was the last book you read?
Ooh. What am I reading right now? I think I'm reading like 6 different. I'm reading you're not supposed to do that, but I get bored very easily. So one's Married Script, another The Master Key. I'm reading that one. I'm reading it out loud and recording it to myself so I can listen to it later. Because I've been hearing so many good things about it. That I really want to. It's dense. It's like written in verbiage. So I read it out loud and then I listen to it myself later. So that way I actually absorb more of it. I'm weird.
Good for you. Well, Hey, no, you're not. No, you're not. I think that's amazing, right? Whatever works. But thank you again for taking your time out of your day to chat with me. This is recorded, so I'll put it on YouTube for everyone to watch it on demand as well on YouTube. And my little ending, if anyone's looking to buy or sell a business or franchise, check out mybizon.com. Thank you, Jaime. Thank you, Eventual Millionaire, and have a great day.
Thank you so much. You're amazing.
Thanks, Jaime. Bye.